Before we jump into the panel, we have one more speaker, Andrus Aaslaid, who is the Intelligent Technologies Lead at PwC Estonia. And I know Andrus has a long history in engineering, IT and electronics since early 90s in Silicon Valley. And he has worked in both government and public and private positions around that. So to start off with intriguing question as well, Intelligent Tech Lead, that sounds cool. How does your working day look like? You're leading intelligent robots from one place to another, or what do you do normally?
For the first couple of months when I was working for the PwC, I made a joke that most of my job is about explaining people on a daily basis why they don't need blockchain. So I think that's pretty much kind of reflecting to the AI as well, that most of the job, the tech consultancy, is not about what to do, but what to avoid.
All right. So let's hear
no robots involved.
what to avoid. Thank you.
That's probably 30, 40 years old, and some hardcore AI people are always giving me a hard time when I explain that the AI is just a larger hammer. It's a sophisticated hammer, and it's kind of hammer what we all like to have all our problems solved with, but people, it's a hammer. So when we start mystifying it and when we start explaining that it's something which takes over the world, the AI will not take over the world more than a hammer does. So it's people at the end so far, and of course when we do a really large series of stupid mistakes one after another, we may end up with a solution where we have developed a very huge hammer which smashes the planet, but this is probably not going to be the case in the foreseeable future. So, what is the magic? That was at everybody's computer about 20 years ago, and most people hated it, but lo and behold, this was what the artificial intelligence is seen as by the industry today, and which we mostly have developed since this, I don't remember, how was this, Clipper or something? Yeah, so that is still what we do. And why I put this on the slide was because I always thought that this whole paperclip thing is kind of ridiculous. And a couple of hours ago, when I was decided that I will do a quick spell check around all the slides, what I'm going to send and show you today, that I'm going to do a quick spell checking on that. I kind of was sad that I didn't have this thing popping up, because I realized that PowerPoint 2010, if I want to change the spelling for all the text on all the slides, if I select all the slides, it doesn't give me the language icon, so I could choose the language. And if I choose it one by one, then all of a sudden I realized that the default language is not popping up to the menu, so I have to scroll down to find the language, change one sentence, then select another sentence, go down, select, because my default language was Estonian. And after doing it like 25 times the same, I so much wanted this paperclip to come up like it was doing 20 years ago, saying, I see you writing a letter, maybe you want to add a dear sir. What's wrong with asking, I see you changing the language of all your sentences on your presentation. Do you want me to do that for you for the next 255 words? Didn't. Well, kind of recapping what Peter was explaining, just a very simple slide on what it is and how it works. It kind of goes in two separate directions. The one is that we have robots doing less or more, and the other direction is we have humans doing less and more. And there are a lot of explanations and a lot of different terms of how how to segment it and how to describe it and what it is. And as we look at the economy and as we look at the industry today, we are kind of mixing it all up, saying that it's AI, and some say, okay, it's a narrow AI, it's a wider AI. So just to try to make it like a visual, then if we involve computer programs in our process, they will not become intelligent in any foreseeable future because of what we saw a couple of slides ago. It's going to be sophisticated, it's going to be mysterious, it's going to be bedazzling. They do things faster than we do, they do things more clever ways than we do. They may do things in unpredictable ways, but it's a piece of computer program which is making work for us. So it can go with assisting us, and it can go with doing something totally unattended, but we have to describe what that is. And if we're talking about hardware functionality or a narrow AI, what everybody's calling it, then it's for the specific task. This is when he realizes, or it realizes, that I want to change all the text on my slides. And then there's, of course, adaptive functionality, which is where it has to figure out what to do, or the general AI or wide AI. And this is where things become interesting, because we have been talking a lot about AI ethics, and we have been talking a lot about how we should supervise it so that the hammer will not destroy the world together with us. And there are a lot of interesting questions, because we become very clever of doing weapons of mass destruction. And for example, on the AI, as far as military goes, the question is that even today, we are not exactly sure who's fighting the war, because it was easy. There was this guy, the guy had axe or sword or whatever, and he killed whoever he had to kill. So it was this swordman's decision who kills. And then, of course, we jump to the 500 years further, saying that, okay, there is this drone which recognizes people, and if he doesn't like the face, then he kills this particular one with a shape charge. And of course, we can do that. But even today, the elements of the software in the modern warfare, the ballistic missile with its guidance systems, with its electronics, which decides when to self-destruct and when to explode all of a sudden, these decisions are already given away by and far to the computer algorithms. So the question is, if somebody's pushing the button and the ballistic missiles flies off, that's one thing. We can attribute that this particular act was a human because he was pressing the button. But then what? This thing goes and it can self-detonate because it was taking 5 different sensors and realizing that it's flying to the wrong direction. Okay, it self-detonates. What if it doesn't? What if the computer algorithms will, inside the ballistic missile, decide that 4 out of 5 warnings is not enough? And it's nothing to do with artificial intelligence. We have just programmed it. And we can put as much machine intelligence or learning capabilities in it and train this whole thing as much as we wish. It is still staying as a computer program, so we can't give him the mystification of it's a self-conscious ballistic missile flying to some. Yes, we can, I don't know, wire a brain inside it and have it flying together with the ballistic missile, but even then, what is it? So making this boundary between what is intelligent and what isn't is exactly as what's making us different from the dolphins. Is the dolphin intelligent or isn't it? And how do we measure? Is the algorithm intelligent or isn't it? Are we intelligent or aren't we? So where do you make this boundary? Do you think that the dolphin is self-aware or not? And it becomes more and more as a thought experiment rather than being an actual technical question. So as far as we see it in the industry today, as far as we see it making decisions for us today, I'm claiming it's a computer program, and AI people hate me for that. So, as at the moment for the generic, it's called Industry 4.0, we are not at this right lower corner of the slide. We are mostly experiencing the first two, the assisted intelligence and automation. And there's this term called robotic process automation, which is going on a lot at the different industry sides. So, and I put that here, there's a lot of text on it, but in case somebody will share the slides, I think that's the best explanation I've encountered so far of what the robotic business or robotic process automation different steps looks like. So if somebody wants to evaluate their company or somebody wants to get ideas where he is or she is on the innovation curve, this is pretty much that. It starts from the very simple macros which you write for your business, and it takes data from one vault and puts it in the other and maybe adds some numbers meanwhile. Then it becomes a more automated, like you will integrate it into the processes. Then the next level is when it starts modifying the processes and already takes some decisions. And somewhere where you have this intelligent automation, obviously is where it becomes intelligent. But this intelligence is also smoke and mirrors. It's basically the learning algorithms which are able to reconfigure themselves based on the input. So it's not only taking the data and doing the dumb operations, but it also interprets the data and starts making decisions. And this is the stage where algorithms become intelligent. So we start making decisions based on the data. And of course, the last part will be when we are starting to create algorithms. So it's not only that we will be taking data and making decisions, but we also change now the behavior of the whole process based on that data. Of course, it takes a lot of learning, so the AI and machine learning, sometimes synonyms, sometimes not, but that will also create all sorts of strange consequences. So if you look at these last two chapters, there is a guy called Charles Stross who has been written a book, Accelerando. And he's like an oracle. The book was published in 1999 or 2000, and I'm reading it almost once a year because I see how far we have advanced now in that book. I'm probably at the first quarter of it. And he had already, for that time, or where the book is actually on my bookshelf at the moment, by the quarter of the book he has gone to the self-conscious business instruments, which is basically a company which trades itself on the stock market and makes a decision what would be the most beneficial business he could do, reinvent it so that he could sell more of his shares in the stock market. Doesn't have an owner because the company eliminated owner a long time ago because owner was taking off the dividends and it wasn't successful for the company, so he was able to find a way of getting rid of owner and now owns 100% of himself. And he realized that also the banks are evil because they take tax from the percentage from the business. So this self-conscious business instrument established 100,000 other business instruments he transferred all his money to, and realized that if he keeps all his money between transactions between the banks, he doesn't have to pay anybody because he effectively has no money on any account. So you have a business instrument which has a shitload of money, you have a business instrument who has no owner, and you have a business instrument who doesn't have any money on any accounts because everything is afloat all the time. I think Mr. Stross was right on that account, that we are going to see business instruments like that. We are going to see purely algorithmically optimized things which we despise because they are going against human nature. And they go there because we haven't paid attention where to stop them. Is it okay or not? I don't know. Is it okay that Google gives me the results he thinks I'm looking for? I'm quite happy with it. If it's okay that Facebook decides which of my friends are important for me and I should see their posts about or which aren't, I'm okay with that. I get used to certain friends and I don't never hear about another 640 of them, so should be okay, and probably has had some effect on me having talks with them in real life, but it's okay. Is it okay that my company at some point decides that I'm redundant and he's doing better off without paying me dividends? Maybe not that much, although I like my company, and still I don't like him to be alone. I would like to still receive benefits from that. So once again, dolphin, is it intelligent? Human, is it intelligent? Where is the boundary? With an AI, exactly the same thing. Yet, we have predicted that by next 10 years, we will have a global GDP increase for those hazy business instruments and hazy business things increasing by 14%, altogether 15.7 trillion. So the current GDP globally is about 80 something, probably 88,000 billions, which means then 88 trillions, yes. And we're going to be probably somewhere close to 100 trillions by the year 2030. And so the increase is attributed largely to the fact that we do things differently. As Mr. Ansip earlier mentioned that Europe is in not that bad shape as everybody tends to think. Actually, we are not. We are having our fair share of the global growth, maybe not as much as we would wish to, but take it or leave it. Europe is also much smaller than we wish to, so we can't dominate the world, even if we would really, really like. But we're doing fairly. So if there will not be anything very, very bad happening with an economy or anything else, which nobody predicts at the moment, seems, then we're gonna be quite okay with that. Now, the scale of industrialization or the scale of digitalization globally, if we look at the efforts what people have made, then we're actually also doing quite well with almost half or a little bit less, maybe 1/3 of the companies in the world saying that they are already past first phases of digitalization, and they're going to be employing it large scale. So the future is now. We are at the moment where we are about to unleash all digital instruments, including the fictional models of the power plants, which would mimic the actual behavior so that we could make the decisions, up to just the simple algorithms which take data from one sensor and put it to the system. So we are seeing this Cambrium explosion happening as of now in the world, and we're gonna see it as a first row. Baltics and Estonia, if we look at the digital readiness, we are lagging a little bit behind. Estonia is not that much, Lithuania quite a lot, but they are trying to catch up fast as well. So this is the survey we do each year at the PwC to see if, or to measure the metrics, and it also involves the digitalization stuff. So as you see, everybody is kind of contemplating, but we are not very far. So only 8%, and that's only for Estonia alone, that they're seriously thinking that they're doing something. The rest of it is just playing around with an idea or doing something at the very early stages of the prototypes. With AI, of course, as this would be the next stage after the actual digitalization, because like Peter was mentioning repeatedly, it's about data, 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 and data. So without digitalization, we will not be able to find that data. More than a half casually say everywhere that we don't care in the next few years at all. About 1/3 is saying that we are thinking about it within this time frame of the next 3 years, and only 3% globally has said that our business is relying on it. So there is one slide which says that about 1/4 or 1/3 of the companies is doing heavy digitalization, and we see that the other survey says that only 3% of the companies globally say that they are already doing it, which means that we are kind of at this breaking point when we are starting to go really fast. And some philosophical thoughts for the conclusion of what the AI does and why is it important to us. Think future. We are kind of, in Estonia at least, we are very, very centered about how our generation ages and what are we doing when we are going to be 80. The method and the way of living will be totally different. So the question is more about what we do for survival, not who's paying our pension. It's time to accept the fact that no one in this room is going to have a pension, but or quite likely not going to have a pension which would pay for their standard of living what they like. So our children will live differently, our grandchildren will live absolutely differently. My favorite thought is that they will be living at the countryside with a very high-tech farm and working for the different companies virtually, having a virtual reality and augmented intelligence and all those tools, that we will merge the high-tech with a country living, because it seems to be the only sustainable way of doing it. The large-scale mass production is not probably going to cut it. And as far as AI goes, probably the most important thing what we have to do with an industrialization or AI inside industrialization is that we are not very good users of the natural resources at the moment. We preach about recycling, we try to recycle, but we are not looking at it at a global scale. For me, to fly to Jakarta is still probably the cheapest way through London. So the cheapest way to get to the Asia is for me to sit on the plane here, fly 5 hours to the wrong direction, then fly another 10 hours to get the wrong direction to the other way, and then get to Asia. Tallinn to London, London to Moscow, Moscow to Doha, Doha to Jakarta, instead of getting from here to Helsinki, Helsinki to whatever place. There are planes which go from Helsinki to Asia, but going to London and London to Asia is cheaper, which doesn't make any sense. I've been sitting on an airplane and looking at my house from the airplane, thinking that, woo, I will be after 7 hours here, back at home. So that doesn't make any sense. If we don't optimize things like that, please don't tell me that I should shut my light at my bedroom because I'm not there and wasting the electricity. If it's okay for me to fly 7 hours to the wrong direction, it's okay to leave this light on. I'm not doing it. So we have to optimize it before we get killed on our own planet. And the final thing, 10 years ago when I was working for the government, the digital divide, the Lisbon agenda, the whole thing about that some people will get killed because they don't have internet. We're not talking about that anymore because everybody has a cell phone. What we should start talking about is that the guys who don't have AI on their hands, they're going to be obliterated by the ones who have. The divide of me being able to change my PowerPoint text language 100 times faster than you may not matter that much. But for me to design the rocket ship with 1 hour based on the metrics I enter versus your company doing it for 10 years and 5 billions, that's going to make the difference. So we can't avoid arms race. There will be AI in our disposal which makes us superhumans. The question is, do we have enough power and do we have enough policy making that we could make everybody equally capable of using it and make it accessible to everybody? Because otherwise some of us will be apes and some of us will be superhumans and there will be nobody in between. And like Top Gear, with that bombshell, I have exhausted my time, so thank you.
Thank you.